Okay, so get this right. We are diving deep today. Deep into Tokyo's new 4-day work week.
It's a policy
Yeah, a policy.
coming in April 2025.
You got it. And we're looking at this article. It's called, simply, Tokyo's 4-day work week. But honestly, that title doesn't even scratch the surface. Like what this could mean, not just for Japan, but for like work everywhere, globally, you know?
What's really interesting to me is it's not just like everyone gets a day off. This is a response to some pretty major problems.
Okay, yeah, let's break that down a little. So the article gives us the basics. We're talking over 160,000 employees.
Wow.
Right. And the Tokyo metropolitan government will have the option, they don't have to, but they can choose to work a 4-day week.
Option.
Exactly. But here's the thing. They still got to work their full monthly hours, which is, by the way, 155.
Still 155.
So we're really talking about squashing, like compressing the work week, not, just working less overall.
Right. It's a nuance a lot of people miss. It's not woohoo 3-day weekend. It's how do we rethink work itself? How do we decide what productivity even is? And how do you balance a person's life with what the company, the organization needs?
And speaking of people's lives, there's this whole section, super interesting, about what this means for parents. So parents who've got kids, like grade 1 through 3, they can choose shorter days.
Interesting.
But their pay adjusts, too.
Makes sense.
And then, if you've got even younger kids, you can actually reduce your hours by up to 2 hours every day.
That's significant. You start to see the connection there to the bigger problems,
Right.
low birth weights, right? And getting more women, especially, into the workforce. This is targeted.
It does make you wonder, though, right? Is this really them saying, we got to solve these big issues? Or is it like a super smart way to attract talent in a job market that's already, like, super competitive? I mean, come on, who wouldn't want a 4-day week?
I think it's probably both. You've got to look at it strategically. Japan's got these demographic and economic pressures. But at the same time, they're admitting the old way of working, the long hours, the pressure. It just doesn't work anymore.
It's almost like the governor, Koike, she's saying, being successful in Japan, we're redefining that.
Yeah.
Like, imagine it, a whole society where doing well at work and having a good family life, they're both valued equally.
Exactly. And the article even talks about this project she's got, Women in Action, designed to get more women working.
Which is huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Japan's got this history of, well, pretty strict roles for men and women. But here's the other thing. Tokyo's not alone here. It says several other places, local governments in Japan are also trying this 4-day week thing out.
It's part of a larger trend, too.
Oh, yeah.
This is global. All over. You've got companies, governments, they're rethinking the old 9-to-5. Especially after the pandemic, people realized, hey, maybe, just maybe, there's a better way to do this whole work-life thing.
It's pretty amazing, though, right? Like all over, this shift to more flexible work. But the real question is, does it work? Like, will a 4-day week actually make people more productive? Will they be happier? And will it, fix these huge society problems?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? And honestly, no guarantees. The article even mentions there could be downsides. Like, what if you're just cramming 5 days of work into 4? More stress, heavier workload.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think you're getting this break, but then it backfires, right?
Totally. This has to be done right. Clear rules, support for people. You can't just throw it out there. How will they even track the hours? What about overtime? People burning out. So many things to figure out.
And what about jobs where, a 4-day week just isn't possible? Hospitals, firefighters, factories, those places need people 24/7.
Wow. Absolutely. This 4-day thing, it's not one size fits all. The article doesn't go too deep into that, but it makes you think, can you adapt this model to different industries, different types of work?
Maybe it's not about the exact 4 days, but the idea of flexibility, right? Some jobs, maybe compress the week. Others, maybe it's working from home or having a schedule that shifts around,
It's got to be tailored to the industry, the workers. And that takes a real change in how we think. Work isn't just a place you go, it's stuff you got to get done. And there might be lots of ways to do it.
Speaking of changing how we think, the article mentions this thing Koike's doing, trying to get people talking more openly about work styles. It's like challenging that whole Japanese thing of you got to work late to show you're dedicated.
Huge hurdle to overcome. But imagine if it works. A work culture where it's okay to say, I'm done for the day. To take breaks, to put your own well-being first. No guilt, no judgment.
Big change.
Yeah.
But think about it. A culture where it's not about FaceTime. It's about, did you get the work done well? And did you get it done efficiently?
Exactly. Taking breaks, having time for family, hobbies, that might actually make you better at work in the long run. More productive, more engaged.
There's also that point about this policy. It's really trying to stop women from having to give up their careers because
Yeah.
of having kids, childcare, all that. Taking a direct aim at that gender gap Japan's got.
Oh, absolutely. More support for working moms, more flexibility. That's leveling the playing field. It's
Yeah.
giving women the power to chase those career dreams without having to make these impossible choices.
So it's so much more than just, hey, one less day at work. It's changing the culture, fixing inequalities, and in the end, trying to make life better for everyone, more sustainable, you know?
Big picture thinking. And look, it's early days, but Tokyo trying this out could be a big step towards that.
Definitely something to watch, right? And who knows, maybe the rest of the world will see this and rethink how we work and live too. But I got to ask you, listener, what would you do with an extra day off every week? What would that open up for you?
Good question to think about. Because at the end of the day, any policy like this, it only works if we make the right choices. If we use that time to shape our lives for the better.
You know, it's funny. We keep coming back to this idea of changing the culture. Like how Koike, she's encouraging people, just talk about work, how you work, what it means. The article mentioned that. It's like she's trying to, I don't know, shift this whole thing where if you're not working late, you're not dedicated. Like longer hours equals more success.
It's subtle, but it matters. You're not always on. You don't have to be the last one out the door. That's a big deal for Japan, I think.
It really is.
Yeah.
For a society that's always like prized hard work, putting work first. But maybe, just maybe, this 4-day week thing, it's what gets things moving towards a bigger change.
It's bold, that's for sure, and who knows how it'll turn out. But even if it doesn't work everywhere exactly like this, Tokyo's doing something. They're asking these questions we all need to think about.
What should work even be in the 21st century?
Right. How do we make it sustainable? How do we make it, I don't know, something that makes life better, not just takes over your life?
And that's on each of us, right? Like individual people, we got to ask those questions. And maybe by talking about it, by saying, hey, the old way isn't the only way, we can start making a future where work, it adds to your life, not, becomes your whole life.
So, listener, we'll leave you with this. Tokyo's experiment, it's a peek into what could be. What if work-life balance wasn't just some phrase people throw around, but the real deal? What can you do in your own life, your own job, to make that happen?
We want to hear from you. What do you think? What are your ideas? What do you hope work will look like someday? It's on all of us, really, to shape that future, right? By talking, making choices day by day. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, stay curious.